Hello, this is a 2-minute warning before we're going to get started at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for everybody that's joined us today. If you're waiting in the lobby, just give us a moment. Our moderators will bring you into the meeting. Today's topics include some ETC commercial lighting systems. It's kind of an add to our webinar series that we did last week. So we'll get started right at 1 p.m. Eastern, which is in just about 2 minutes. All right, welcome to our 5th, 6th, 7th CETEC webinar. Today's Tuesday, and we're going to get started here. It's 1 p.m. Eastern Time here in Ontario. I'm just going to get my moderator at the other end to give me a quick mic check, and we'll be up and running. I got the high sign from the guys all over the country. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll continue this webinar series throughout the next coming weeks. Tomorrow our series will be a discussion about the future of the entertainment industry and live event venues, a little pontification from all high for everybody to partake in. The Q&A will be key to that one. But for today, what we wanted to cover was some new products that have been released from ETC in the commercial lighting segment. And just a brief overview for everybody to get up to speed with where we're moving with our commercial lighting offerings. So without further ado, we'll fire up and away we go. So our presentation today, the webinar today, will be based around commercial lighting. So we're going to have a brief discussion about where ETC commercial lighting is used. A little bit of a conversation about the differences between DMX and Dali, and although most of the technical people that are involved here will know most of these answers, I just want to kind of break it down to layman terms for designers and engineers. We're going to talk about the ETC response distribution products, as well as ETC's newest commercial lighting fixtures and their newest emergency bypass options. And as usual, at the end of the hour, or 45 minutes-ish, we'll be offering a Q&A. If anybody wants to jump into the Q&A during the presentation, there's a small button in the top right corner with a speech balloon in it. You can jump in there, and Tyler, Charles, and Michael are administering the Q&A today. So off we go. ETC commercial lighting. Where is ETC able to offer solutions to the commercial lighting industry? What we've put up on the screen here is a list of every location you can actually imagine, and there's hundreds and hundreds more. We have existing installations in every type of venue across the country. In outdoor venues, dealing with general parkade lighting, whether it be museums, exterior fixture designs, architectural pieces, as well as utility pieces. So for lighting ballrooms, or we're lighting gymnasiums, or we're just doing office building lighting, general lobby lighting and service corridors. So ETC commercial lighting, I just, as a topic, we don't want to delve too far into the hardware at this point. Specifically, what I just want everybody to know is that we have an offering for commercial lighting from very small systems, independent, standalone, single rooms, all the way up to campus-wide commercial systems and integration from there. So obviously we have many solutions across the country we can provide to you in different venues. No matter what your application is, ETC has a commercial lighting solution for you to be able to work with, and please reach out to the CETEC staff to have a conversation about what your opportunity is and how we can solve some of your challenges. That being said, in commercial lighting, a lot of the time we are dealing with newer fixtures that have color control and tunable white and a series of advanced features that old LED fixtures or even original incandescent fixtures and fluorescents didn't have. So what you should know about DMX and Dali is super important. Those are the two main protocols that commercial systems are using for controlling lighting devices out as their endpoints. Why does it matter whether you choose either or protocol, and who ultimately will be the winner in the fight between DMX and Dali in the commercial environment? So just a brief overview of the two protocols. So Dali uses a 2-wire control line. It has a maximum of 64 units when connected on a single Dali control unit. This technology is a successor to 0 to 10 volts. So anybody that had 4-wire ballasts in the past has dealt with 4-wire fluorescent or 4-wire LED dimmable controls. Dali can operate down that same wire type, so 16 gauge, 14 gauge, single conductors, and 2 of them would be required. You shouldn't confuse addressable Dali with loop Dali or what they call non-Dali. Non-Dali is a single loop control that operates very much like 0 to 10, where every device on the wire will dim up and down at the controlled voltage together. Whereas addressable Dali or true Dali is an addressable feature where the devices downstream have the ability to be individually addressed. Now, I want you to take note of a couple things. 64 units are all we can have on the line, and Dali has 254 steps of brightness, and you'll see a little bit that DMX has a very similar one. Between off and a 0% on state. Now, the key here is that Dali doesn't have the ability to deal with color or remote communications, and it's only 64 units. So when we're dealing with not only color control, RGBW, multicolor, but also tunable white, Dali starts to fail us a little bit in the ability to be able to do tunable white in a meaningful way. DMX is an entertainment protocol that has been around for 30 years, 40 years now, and it uses RS-485 and RS-422 bidirectional communication. So DMX is piped down a serial data line. It's a differential data line. It has a single twisted pair with a shield drain. DMX devices employ, like I said, 485 or 422 interfaces, which allows you to control multiple luminaires down a set of differential wires. There's a changing specification for DMX as you go. The original specification allowed for only 32 devices on a single DMX line, but with the advent of half load, quarter load, eighth load, or even smaller transceiver chips in the receiving devices, we now have in certain applications the ability to increase our fixture count down a single DMX line. You need to work with the engineers here at CETEC or ETC to make sure that we're designing the systems within the newer compliances and that the device types are all compatible. Due to the multi-drop connection topology using RS-485, you can build your number of loads way over the original 32, and we're going to look at a few devices that allow us to do that here in just a moment. DMX is primarily used, and I don't want to limit it to, but is primarily used for color, RGB as it's represented here, and tunable white controls, which allow the LED to, let me just move this out of the way, the LEDs to be controlled individually across the control network. The DMX fixtures also provide us a considerable increase in functionality. So if we were to look at a comparison chart between DMX and Dali, you will find that DMX being the column on the left, it allows us to have 512 addresses, again, that is the standard DMX 512 spec, as well as it's a much faster protocol. The response and refresh rate on DMX is extremely fast compared to Dali. So when you need a very consistent fade or a very complex fade or changing in colors, DMX is going to provide a much more fluid control than Dali would be able to. DMX, a single channel of DMX has the ability to, or a single universe of DMX has the ability to control 512 channels, like we all know. Dali only, again, is at 64 addressable devices. It is possible on a DMX line to have multiple listening devices at the same address, so we can address a few fixtures the same, compressing our channel count. It has much more flexibility than Dali that way. There is a feature that Dali has, which is automatic addressing. DMX doesn't have an automatic addressing feature, although we support RDM. And again, if you want to do some more research or talk to our guys about what RDM is, we can definitely explain that. The nice thing about DMX is it's centralized control. It's a single head control unit, where Dali is actually decentralized control, which works much like our Echo bus. So for information on that, if you need a decentralized control system, our Echo environment allows you to have distributed processing throughout the venue. Our cable lengths are very similar, and again, this has to do with, the topology for DMX is really 1,500 feet, which is a little more than 450 meters. Or if you're running over Cat5, it's about 300 meters that you can max out on. The Dali, being 16 gauge, has about a 300 meter loop radius for addressable Dali as well. Cable requirements are completely different. DMX has very specific cable requirements for 9729 Belding cable or Cat5e. Being the two standards that we can do DMX over. They are definitely a more finicky termination technology. It's very easy for electricians and installers to accidentally strip or do poor wire prep on DMX lines, and Dali is much more robust that way. It's a 16 gauge wire, and Moretts are used to do a lot of the termination technology. DMX, is, we know, also requires an end-of-line resistor, and Dali does not. Most of that will be review for everybody, but when we talk about commercial lighting, it's important to understand that there is a pull, a back and forth between manufacturers, engineers, and consultants that are designing Dali systems from a pure commercial setup where they're dealing with, say, warehouse lighting, and they've lived in a 0 to 10 world or a Dali world, and a DMX world. They both have their benefits, and I'd like everybody to understand that ETC has the ability to speak Dali and interface with Dali systems. We do it all of the time, but we would prefer to work in a DMX system. So as far as we're concerned, DMX is our winner when it comes to commercial lighting controls. So down that path, we're going to talk a little bit about some of ETC's new DMX distribution offerings. ETC, I believe last week or maybe about 10 days ago, has introduced their Response Mark II lineup of devices. We've got Rackmount devices, DIN rail devices, as well as multi-output and multi-connector styles that allow us to deal with this modern DMX distribution throughout venues. If we have a quick look at what the line represents, on the left we have our rack mount devices. These are intended to be installed in 19-inch equipment racks with either your network gear or your control gear. So many of the lighting systems now that are commercial lighting systems are actually getting a 19-inch equipment rack for their head units. If you're using lighting over IP technologies, it would not be uncommon for a rack to be populated full of PoE switches and DMX splitters and distributors to be able to just deal with the commercial lighting throughout the venue. So to that accord, we've also got DIN rail mounts. So ETC is offering their Response DMX output gateways and opto splitters in a DIN rail form factor. Both of these give you multiple outputs. The DIN rail form factor only gives us access to a terminal, screw down terminal, either IDC or screw down terminal on a 3-pin header. In the rack mount version, you'll notice here that we have a considerable set of features and options that we haven't had in the past. So the response rack mount versions come in a 5-pin XLR output. All of these optos are RDM compatible and capable. They have pass-throughs on them for the 5-pin output versions. They also, again, have the IDC or screw-down terminal versions. So if you're using solid conductor Cat5 or a compilation or a mix of both, whether you're using 9729 and Cat5 punch downs, you would want to order the middle unit there with the orange connectors specifically for your install. And then the bottom unit is RJ45. There is so many installations now where they have used Cat5 for the DMX, and we're controlling third-party fixtures where it will come in sometimes straight to a patch bay, sometimes not, because again, this is not Ethernet data. They will bring it down and punch RJ45 connectors right on the ends of the cables, and you can plug them straight in here. For information on what the pinout is, you can surf DTC's website or CETEC's website and get links to what is the correct pinout for Cat5 orientations. So if we move to the next slide here, you're going to ask why rack mount. Again, a lot of these commercial installations, you want to have your optos accessible to you, especially when there's a high number of outputs. It's one thing to be in a boardroom where you're hiding the DMX opto splitters, say in the ceiling space, and they're somewhat accessible. Venues that have finished ceilings, heritage venues, there's quite a number of different applications where you need to remote the DMX distribution into a closet. And the nice thing about rack mounts in the Response opto splitter series here is that you can configure the jacks either front or rear. By configuring them rear, you'll notice that the power connectors can also be front or rear, so they can either join the DMX outputs or be isolated depending on your orientation. This gives you a tamper-proof installation. So you can have the splitters in an equipment rack that's locked. You have indication on the front that it's live and it is functioning properly, yet all of the terminations and connections are locked in the back securely in the rack, and eliminates anybody from sticky fingers, as I call it. If you don't have the ability to have a rack installation, or you actually want to distribute some of your opto splitters out into the spaces, ETC produces a DIN rail version of their opto splitter in the Response line up here. The two enclosure sizes we have, I believe, are a DIN 14 and a DIN 28. That give you the ability to have a voltage barrier for your power supply. So you bring 120 volt into the right-hand side and transfer over 48 volts to the left-hand side for your opto splitters. Don't forget, you can order them without those enclosures if you want to use the Response opto splitters in other people's equipment racks, custom-made enclosures, or even integrate them into third-party control systems. We have it there for you in a DIN rail form factor. And again, commercial lighting primarily lives in that DIN rail world. Just a look across the Response lineup to tell us that, or to show us some of our options there. We have the number of outputs listed here, what the configuration is, what rack size it is. So obviously we have 12 or 16 output rack mount versions and 8 output DIN rail versions. It's important to note that we're universal voltage inputs, so 100 to 230 volt. And the DIN rail version is actually a DC operation. It's running from 12 to 48 volt. Most commonly, we find most power supplies in the field now for commercial lighting are running on 24 volt DC, and this is quite comfortable at that voltage. So an introduction to the Response Mark II opto splitters in our DMX lineup. And again, all of these devices are 100% RDM capable and will work quite well in your installations where you're using RDM. Chime check, not too bad, 20 minutes in. So ETC's just released the newest offering of many offerings to come over 2020 here in their commercial fixture line. And so these fixtures and drivers are considered in the ARC system family. So we have the Navis and the F drive. And I'm going to show you a couple of details on both of the fixtures. We're not going to get too technical on them, but I just want to give everybody a really good understanding of how this is a purely commercial offering to live in architectural environments or restaurants, lobbies, office buildings, and so on and so forth. And so we're going to show you some of the building tools that Navis and F-Drive have here. We'd start with the Navis fixture. There should be a nice little animation that you get to see. Hopefully it's not too choppy. In the building blocks of light for the Navis fixture, it is a fixture housing with a LED driver, as well as some accessories that can be put into the front of that driver to deal with optics, diffusion, some egg crating, and then different trim plates as well to work towards the specific design requirements of your venue. Things are easy to adjust on the fly with this. There is a feature where you can get 30 degrees of tilt off of your fixture to be able to direct your beam output, as well as you can get a 360-degree rotation so that you can get your pattern laid down on the ground exactly how your lighting designer would like to have it. So the next slide. Here is an offering of some of the lenses and accessories that we have existing today with the release of the Navis fixtures. We've got 15 through to 60 degrees, so 15, 25, 40, and 60 degree lenses. We have some optical accessories that have to do with frost. There is a louver in there, so a mini micro egg crate, as it may be concerned, which helps with off-axis glare, as well as a selection of white and black trims that are not only full-size trims, but pinhole or an offset slot, as well as a wall wash half eyelid, which does a very good job if you've located the fixture at the right distance from the wall of casting a beam down the wall. Something that people may not have noticed, but I'd like to call to attention, is that the Navis 100s can be packaged beautifully into a small form factor, and this also allows you to transform them into a wall wash or a pendant or surface cylinder fixture with some of the optional hardware that we have. So it's super important that we don't just think of this as an in-ceiling pot light, that it can be used, the hardware can be used and the accessories can be used to generate a variety of different types of installations and different commercial effects. And you'll see a couple pictures here in a moment of what those look like. Navis has a zero light leak at the rear of the fixture, which makes it perfect for applications with perforated or slatted ceilings, and that's something else. There's a lot of commercial installations where they will have open ceiling architecture, where having no light leak out the back and broadcasting light up into, say, the HVAC ducts or the horrible AV wiring that may or may not be there would be important. Navis is going to set, hopefully, the gold star standard for maximum color output and efficiency. So the fixture is available in white, tunable white, and a full color RGBW solution. It has fully calibrated arrays for color consistency across your luminaires. There is thermal drop compensation to maintain light outputs, which is very important when you do a specific installation where the commercial lighting levels need to be maintained, and color rendering is important. We want to make sure that we're dealing with that as the fixture heats up over time and the gate heats up. So we can then move on in that lineup to look at F-Drive. So the fixture is paired with our F-Drive LED drivers, and these are available in a couple different flavors. But I want to make sure that I point this out, and I'll point it out a couple times. F-Drive LED drivers are not just for our ETC Navis fixtures. They can be used in a variety of third-party manufacturers' fixtures, LED drivers, LED tape, and downlights to be able to drive them very efficiently and in a very unique way. The nice thing about the rack mount unit is that it provides ability for F-Drive to grow throughout your installation. So if you invest in the power supply and rack mount driver chassis up front, and then you add separate circuits later, it has the expandability. You can just buy the cards and slide them in the front. You'll see in the next slide that it kind of shows us that. Accessible control is important. F-Drive designs for Navis and third-party fixtures are super important. So in this setup that we have here, you actually end up with a rack mount assembly called the R12, and it has the ability to have up to 12 option cards installed in a single F-Drive. We have an external power supply assembly that works with this. And for more information on that, you can refer to any of your reps at CETEC or have a look at the product cut sheets that are available on our website and ETC's website as well. The nice thing about F-Drive is that it provides easy installation solutions using RJ45 connections on the rear of the unit, as well as terminal strips. So if you've got a constant voltage application for LEDs, we can order this with configuration that gives you the terminal strip on the back, and you can land third-party, say, LED tape directly on the F-Drive system. The F-Drive, like I said, is available in an R12, which is the rack mount version, or a W1, which is our wall mount solution. You'll notice in the picture here that we're showing that you can end up with a W1 mounted. It gives you status indication on the front of it for power and data status, as well as a single power supply and output driver there. The W1 can be ordered with any of the different types that we're going to see in a little bit. And we can kind of give you some information on that. I'm going to have to interrupt my presentation to plug my laptop in here. We'll see how we do. It also provides power and data support for up to 5 Navis luminaires, or sorry, up to 4 Navis 100 luminaires. So a W1 driver can actually run up to 4 Navis fixtures. Whereas the R12 can accommodate up to 48 individually controlled Navis 100 luminaires. And again, we're going to be offering down the road here into summer of 2020, we're going to be offering other fixtures that work with these drivers. Okay, I am going to take a 2-second pause and grab my charger. Okay, sorry about that. F-Drive option cards. So the F-Drive assembly, the rack mount assembly, and the W1 can be configured in any of these output cards. So we've got a CC150, which gives you 4 channels of constant current outputs with variable drive configurations between 200 and 700 milliamps. So we have a constant current control that allows us to run anywhere between 200 and 700 milliamps of power for a total of 150 watts per card. So that's 4 channel output on a constant current module. If you require constant voltage, or CV150 gives you 24 volt constant voltage outputs, and again allowing for 150 watts per card. FTW 154 channels of 450 milliamp constant current outputs, optimized for use with the Navis 100 fade to warm fixtures. So the FTW allows us to work with specifically the ETC Navis 100s and their fade to warm solution. There is a Chroma 150, which works as a 48 volt DC output, and also provides data to the Navis 100 RGBW luminaires. So if we need color changing, we would simply slip in a Chroma 150 card, and that is going to provide that power and data out to our RGB controllable fixtures. As well as there is a driver card option to work with arc lamp 150s, which provides control and power out to 32 of the ETC arc lamp fixtures across 4 channels. And that's very similar to our 4-channel constant current output module, but being able to run 32 ETC arc lamps on an arc lamp 150 driver is pretty impressive compared to where we were with our drivers just a few weeks ago. So in summary, again, if you need more technical information specific to your designs, I would like you to reach out to ETC or the reps at CETEC Group, both Michael Charles and Tyler Martin. These fixtures are stunning, and in any application, you can see here we've got some pendant down lights as well as some pot lights, and installed, as well as we're running the wall wash luminaires and the LED tape, which is third-party tape, all off of an F-Drive assembly. And when we look at our boardrooms and integrated AV installations, we can see where Navis can really provide a lot of flexibility and opportunity with the equipment racks that are already there, with our lighting controls in them and the network systems, the AV integration, and simple Cat5 runs back to the F drives in a remote room. So that was ETC Navis and F drive. Again, hit the website for more information. The last product that we wanted to talk about today is the Master Phase Loss Detector 2. So in commercial lighting, it's super important that we're managing our systems. And if you refer back to our webinar from last week, you'll see that I talked considerably about emergency detection and operation in systems design, and that I prioritize it above all else when I start our systems designs. So Master Phase Loss Detector 2, ETC loves their acronyms, so that's an MPLD2, is the next generation of emergency lighting detection, so normal power loss, and triggering from multiple devices and outputs. There's been a much larger demand with the larger systems for us to be able to integrate multiple input streams and drive multiple output devices. There is an application a lot where these devices are being used to control non-ETC compliant fixtures. So the MPLD2 is an assembly that gives us a visible indication with some see-through windows behind a lockable cabinet door that gives us visible indication of the input and output statuses. You can see that on the left-hand side it has a breaker assembly that's lockable for our normal power loss. It also has a fault and a restore button that allow it to operate in a mode where manual restoration instead of automatic restoration is required. So when normal power returns, the users will have to walk over and push the green button to allow everything to come back into a normal operating state. The unit, because it's modular, gives us the ability to assign as many inputs and output cards as we wanted. So this unit is a UL 924 listed device, which is super important, that you're using a listed device when you're using your power monitoring and triggering inputs and outputs. The nice thing about it is that it's field modifiable. So we've got a chassis with a circuit board in it, a emergency rated power supply, UL 924 listed monitoring circuit, and then the ETC has designed 16 slots for either input or output cards in here. Depending on what your requirements, multiple inputs may be a fire alarm system, a BAS input, a security system input, and then also the phase loss or normal power detection. Those inputs can all be routed and configured to trigger the output cards that are shown with isolated outputs at the bottom. One input card and one output card would be the standard. You can order it from the factory with just one in and one out. That actually gives you the ability to have, I believe it's 4 inputs on each of the devices and 4 outputs. So as we go down in our configuration here, you've got the ability to order something with, say, 2 input cards and 8 output cards, or 4 and 12. It's fully customizable, so you can have up to 15 input cards and 1 output card. And because there are 2 inputs per card and 4 outputs per output card, you can see that you can build a fairly significant I/O for one device monitoring your normal power. This device then can be located, say, in your mains power distribution room in the basement, or near your generator set, and these emergency signals then can be distributed throughout your building. A very common use of this would actually be the other orientation where there's 2 input cards, or sorry, 1 input card and 15 out, so it's 1 in and 15 to fill up the 16 slots. And that's going to give you 2 inputs. Normally that would be your fire alarm input as well as BAS or security input, and then up to 60 outputs from those cards, allowing us to trigger all of our, say, 0 to 10 gateways, ETC relay panels, dimmer racks, emergency transfer, emergency DMX devices, as well as a slew of third-party outputs that would be able to be used for generator triggers and, again, return information to fire alarm or BAS in a commercial environment. So at a fairly good clip, we've brought us to the end of our seminar today. Again, With these lunch and learns, we're not looking to drive you directly into really high-end engineering questions. Our team is available to you to answer questions at any time and work on your systems designs. Everybody is working from a home environment right now, which is absolutely wonderful to be able to resource the web for information and provide, say, one-on-one webinars. So that being said, Michael or Charles, do you guys have anything to add?
I think you have it all covered. I'm very excited about the new emergency controls, because that offers a lot of flexibility in the system design.
Charles, did you want to summarize for everybody?
Yes, well, donc de mon côté, bien sûr, toujours disponible pour répondre si des questions côté francophone. Juste valider que les nouvelles Navis 100 et le F-Drive, c'est compatible avec toutes les lampes Arc System qui existent déjà. Donc, la luminosité, le faisceau, la texture sera la même. Donc, ça s'ajoute. Arc System, parfait pour un rétrofit ou que déjà l'électricité. Le Navis, parfait pour des nouvelles structures où on passe tout ça en catégorie câble 4.6. Donc, voilà pour le résumé. Thank you, Wayne.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Tyler, was there anything in the Q&A that we want to cover here?
Yeah, I'm just going to bring up a couple of questions. So the F-Drive products are native DMX and RDM controllable. They also auto-configure themselves with their channel count once cards have been put into them. The W1 driver is has an emergency version available as well. The R12 currently does not have an emergency model, although it can be fed with emergency power and a DMX emergency bypass kit to meet all of those standards. The MPLD2 cards are 2 inputs per card and 4 outputs per card. And the other question was the dimming accuracy and minimum amount possible. And the F-Drive and Navis fixtures are 0% dimming, and it uses an 8-bit DMX dim instead of a 16-bit. And the last one was the Navis 100 color changing fixtures use a Cat5 termination only. And that can be daisy chained for fixtures. The fixtures actually have a DMX in, or sorry, a data in and a data out port, which are important to respect that daisy chain. But the 48 volt output on that Cat5 also has a CAN bus, so it has to be a Cat5 cable or Cat6 equivalent. But that was all of the questions.
Awesome. Well, again, I thank everybody that's joined us today on our 6th of very many webinars to come. We're actually posting these to our websites. You'll be able to get them on cetecgroup.ca and go back and review them or share them with your associates or other coworkers. And again, if there's any questions or requirements, please reach out to us. Information can be found on our website. In contact information, you can reach out to Michael Harris or Charles Cadeau, myself, or Tyler Martin, anywhere across the country. I hope everybody's being safe. The best to you and your family, and thank you again for spending some time with us this afternoon. And tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we'll be covering another topic. Have a wonderful day.